Hi, it's time for some ass facts. Brass facts. Finally following up on my Panobridge first looks video, which as of writing the script is now one day short of 1 year ago. Holy fucking shit, I need to get a real job. I'm going to go light on the product overview, so if you have no idea what this piece of plastic is, go ahead and watch that video, linked up here. I talk about what it is. I'm not really the most operator of operators, nor do I kick down doors at 3 a.m. wearing night vision, but I have worn this thing consecutively for about 50 hours, assuming at minimum 2 hours per night vision trip, so likely actually more. Add on top of that many hikes, camps, or whatever. Look at all this footage you made! Yeah, I got some time behind this thing, so I'd like to talk about it. Shoot my load right out of the get-go. I think the Panobridge has heralded the next generation of what we're going to expect out of dual-tube night vision, specifically the increased field of view. Now, will the Panobridge be that next generation of night vision? No, probably not. But we're already seeing the design cues from it manifest in newer designs. Honestly, I was pretty lukewarm about that statement when I released this video 1 year ago, but now I have a lot more time under night vision, and also experience with a lot of other systems, DTNVGs, 31s, whatever. I think the performance gain is objectively there. It doesn't matter if you're hiking, running and gunning, or in a shoot house, or looking at stars. We're always losing our shit over, hey, glass clarity, FOM, halo, EBI, white phosphor, thin filmed. All of that is super useful, yes. But all of these are cases of improving existing information. Only the Panobridge, and of course the RPNVGs, but I can't afford that, so please don't lose your shit, provide you with new information via an increased field of view. When you put on a night vision tube, you lose field of view. At home or on the flat range, for the same reasons why walking around with your eyes closed is insanely doable, this field of view comes off as a minor but workable annoyance. But as soon as you put yourself in a more complex situation, it goes from an annoyance to a serious detriment. And it's probably the biggest learning curve to moving under night vision, because not only do we actually just lose our peripheral vision, but we're losing a huge chunk of everything that isn't our central area of focus, especially in the context of night vision in dark environments with variable terrain. None of that backlit range stuff. So if you're a novice, this will utterly cripple you. You'll find yourself, even with night vision, unable to navigate terrain or obstacles effectively, as you basically need to look where you place every single footstep, and your entire mental bandwidth is used to move. As you try to speed up, you'll often find you'll take a step and trip, or you'll misjudge where the floor is, and then your heart will come out of your asshole as your feet hovers 2 to 3 inches above the ground, and then, you go that fine a little bit. As you gain more experience, you'll find you'll semi-consciously begin to move your head back and forth, sort of like a tactical flamingo, as you try to multitask. Is my path good? Cool. Look around. Okay, back to the path. Look around. Back to the path. Scan. So on and so forth. And finally, as you really start getting into it, you'll continue the flamingo thing to a degree, but you'll be able to do a lot of stuff on trust and intuitive feeling alone, and allows you to focus on actual other stuff, other than navigating. But at the end of the day, the fundamental issue still remains. Realistically, with a 40-degree night vision tube, you can only focus about on one thing at a time. That sounds kind of esoteric, so let me dial it in with some examples. When you normally run towards something, like in a run and gun, bounding, whatever you want to call it, let's say you're going towards a piece of cover, you can do a lot of mental plotting with the picture you have ahead of you. Do I go left around that rock, right around that rock? Should I go here? Oh, maybe let's go here. Oh shit, that's a gopher hole. Go around that. You can do that while keeping your eyes or your focus on where you're going to, and then you still are able to plot a subconscious path and do, object avoidance and so on and so forth. But as soon as you cut down your field of view, you end up at a compromised situation. You can kind of focus on the floor or path in front of you, but then you're not destination focused and you can kind of get you're not getting lost, but you're going to kind of detour a little bit. Or you can be semi-destination focused, but you're going to end up basically going in a mostly straight path with only slight deviations because, well, you don't see the other options ahead of you. Also, if you've done any sort of CQB, even basic team stuff, every little bit of information matters. When you're down a hallway and someone moves up on your right or motions for you to enter, sometimes you're going to miss that on a 40-degree field of view thing. As you're coming through the breach, you will see more of the room faster, and as you get to your point of domination, you can collapse your field of fire almost instantly, especially on smaller rooms with a much wider field of view. If you're shooting passive or even actively, because you have more field of view, that giant blob of stuff that is your firearm in front of you takes up less of your view, meaning once again, more situational awareness. Driving motor vehicles. You don't realize how often when you're normally driving, you are scanning with your eyes, checking mirrors, checking blind spots, whatever, But as soon as you put on night vision, you realize how much of a claustrophobic clusterfuck it can quickly become, as you need to constantly move your head to scan, check mirrors, and more. All the while taking your eyes entirely off the roads repeatedly, right? Because you can't do both. Very often you'll find it just makes more sense to have somebody else, your passenger, give you that 360 information while the driver focuses entirely on the road and the road only. The list goes on, but there are countless scenarios where having more field of view is not just a convenience, but a major boon to your ability to function under night vision effectively. It allows you to see more than one thing at a time. Now, I can already hear it. My duels are fine. Shut up, poor. Of course they do. They work fine. We've been using them for the entire GWAT. But you gotta understand, some of it is Stockholm Syndrome or whatever you want to call it. Only because it works doesn't mean it's the best. The increased field of view of the Panobridge alleviates some intrinsic issues that are hard-locked to 40-degree systems. You'll be faster, safer, and more efficient with a Panobridge-style setup. At a minimum, it will just reduce mental fatigue as you can process more information more naturally. Now, so far, I've described the concept of increased field of view and its benefits. That's not inherently limited to the Panobridge system, especially as time goes on and more systems come out. In order to have an effective review about this piece of plastic, I need to sell you on the idea of how big its main attractor is, the field of view. Especially because, for the Panobridge specifically, it's very much a give and take scenario. Yeah, we get that field of view and it's really nice, but what are we giving up to get it? Well, the Panobridge has some issues. Most of the issues can be described by the reality that it's kind of early adopter tech. It's one step past the tech demo. The biggest downside of the Panobridge is part of its defining feature set. It's a bridge. Brass facts here. And more importantly, it's a free articulating bridge, 3D printed housing that holds a PVS-14. This means you can rapidly adjust these things faster than any other option on the market. You simply just, reach up, grab the two tubes, and manually push them to where you exactly want them. And it's faster than any other system because we don't have detents or IDP stops or anything. It's just friction. As you can imagine, that's also the biggest downside of this system. If you go face first into something, you lightly tap it with your stock or brace or whatever, the entire thing's going to move. And you're going to go either partially or fully blind because this is a very positionally sensitive setup. In fact, if this setup is not sufficiently tightened down, right, they're tightened via just a single screw per side, even aggressively jumping, running, snapping your head, or whatever, will cause the tubes to slowly shift over time during the oscillation of whatever you're doing. Maybe 1 degree at a time, half a degree at a time. But you will notice pretty quickly that is occurring, and then you need to reach up and move them, and that's not something you want to deal with. Now, you can solve this issue by cranking the ever-living bejesus out of these things, and then they still move with your hands, but they won't jiggle or move when you're doing stuff. However, that brings us to the second, third, or I lost track at this point. That brings us to the next issue. These are 3D printed plastic housings that are held together basically via plastic on plastic contact via a screw that's basically clamping it together. I'm assuming when you tighten it the hell down, you're going to have issues. Now I suspect, and this is emphasis on suspect, because these are plastic on plastic, these things are slowly wearing away at each other, thus you need to retighten it more and more, relatively speaking, over time. So, yes, you should be retightening this thing or checking tightness level every single time. That is an admin task you should perform, not just on the Panobridge, but I'm pretty sure the longer I have these, the more I need to tighten them to achieve that required level of tension to actually use this without having it move over time. Unfortunately, the woes don't end here. By the very nature of the design, you need to use 2 PVS-14s. While the Panobridge ends up being the lightest bridge on the market, Panobridge and 2 PVS-14s is basically one of the heaviest dual tube setups on the market, coming in at a whopping 25 ounces without the 2 AAs you'll need to power the system. Weight on NVGs is critical. Not only is every single ounce on the NV device on the end of the lever arm, thus disproportionately increasing strain, but every ounce you put up there generally will need a counterweight to counteract that, increasing the overall weight of bullshit on your head. Now, this isn't really the Panobridge's fault, it's by design. Some of the upsides of this system is the accessibility of just needing 2 PVS-14s. You can very easily scale into this setup. There are also options on the market to take your tubes and put them into a dedicated housing kind of built for something like this, but this skyrockets the cost for only marginal weight savings gain. The inherent weight of the system kind of comes from needing 2 power sources for each individual tube, and that can't be easily overcome. Speaking of savings and weight savings, say goodbye to your savings. This bridge costs you 550 doll hairs. Yes, night vision is expensive, but this is going to be more philosophy analysis versus, a review, but yeah, we need to talk about the cost of this thing. This doesn't cost $550 to produce. It probably doesn't even cost $50 to produce. However, my slight counterpoint to this is Noisefighter is a small company, and these products represent a significant R&D time investment. This has never been done before. Noisefighter came to the market with a unique product, with something that is functionally groundbreaking. You're getting capability that hasn't been had before. No, stop, don't type GPMVGs. So that's worth something. Not only that, but the idea is going to get copied, and actually it has been copied. So the price or the premium exists such that Noisefighter can meaningfully profit off of the idea and its time investment, and then, if possible, leverage that cost into the next generation of Panobridge, whatever. I'm explaining to you how the market works. New things cost a lot more than they cost to produce. That's how things work. But it is a little overpriced, and I would like them to show a little respect towards the customer, that as other options crop up on the market and this option becomes significantly more dated over time, to lower the price, right? Some other things to consider. Because you're going to be using the edge of your tube as the center of your field of view, there is a much higher requirement for tube quality. So if you have bad edge distortion or generally really bad fixed pattern noises on the side of your tube, you're going to have a bad time because that's going to make up the center of your vision. You're also going to want to test a pair of these if possible. I have generally observed, anecdotally, that those with very strong eye dominance will have a far better time with these, as the image tends to just collimate far better. If you have 50-50 eye dominance, folks will be a lot more conscious that 2 tubes are sort of trying to unequally meld binocular style, and they're going to be very cognizant that they are looking at 2 tubes and not just one continuous image. Another concern that is often brought up is blind spots in the middle because you have 2 diverging, eyeballs, functionally speaking. This is actually a non-issue. I thought this was an issue. It's not a thing. You're not splitting your tubes far enough that this can occur at meaningful distances. There is a blind spot that is roughly a hand length away from your face. Anything further than that, and it's immediately in your field of view. So yeah, that's more or less my thoughts. If you're looking at this thing, understand the Panobridge is not perfect product. It's not for everyone. There's a lot of early adopter issues with this thing. There's a lot of jank. There's a lot of bullshit to deal with. And for some people, those pros I've mentioned, I spent half this video on, will not outweigh the jank factor. For some people, they might like the idea, but they put it on their head and their brain just makes the Windows error noise and it just doesn't work out for them. However, for me, after spending 1 year with it, I doubt I will ever return to a system that is a locked 40-degree field of view system. So take it for what you will. Anyways, thanks for watching. For you last 10% of viewers that hang out to the end of the video, you guys are a G. Here's some dog footage that I know you guys are waiting for. See you in the next one.
Let me know when. Hey Nova, you want out now? You want out? Hey! Hey! What's up? Hey! Are you thirsty? Let's get you some water. Oh.